Can I please have a motion to reconvene public meeting?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye, motion so carries. Pledge of Allegiance. Marisol, can you lead us with the
Sure.
Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence in honor of our servicemen and women here and abroad? Thank you. Will the district clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Murphy? Mrs. Mallon? Mrs. Aguilas? Mr. Kolahifar?
Present.
Mrs. Napolitano-Furno? Mrs. Hutchinson? Mr. Hauser?
Present.
Mrs. Poppy? Present. Thank you.
Can I please have a motion to authorize the board president and/or board vice president to call a recess as needed during this meeting without requiring an additional board vote?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, motion so carries. Can I please have a motion to accept the minutes of the March 7th, 2023 meeting?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye, motion so carries. Can I please have a motion to accept the minutes of the March 21st, 2023 meeting?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, motion so carries. Recognitions. Can we invite Mrs. Poppy to introduce our winter athletes?
Good evening. How are you? I'm Christina Poppy. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of Mr. Mallory, who could not join us tonight, to honor our winter athletics season. Before we get into individual recognitions and individual team recognitions, I'd like to share with you some highlights from our winter season. They are: we had participation of 318 athletes. 45 of those athletes were scholar athletes. Boys and girls basketball won more games this year than they have in the past 5. Bowling, girls basketball, and cheer were named scholar athlete teams. Boys swimming, wrestling, boys track and field were named league champs. Boys track and field were named county champs. And we had 13 individual athletes who qualified for state competitions. We will now honor our county champions and state qualifiers. So first, I'd like to welcome Coach Nick Sturtz to honor the Suffolk County Section 11 doubles bowling champs.
Thank you. The county championship is a team event, but we also have the opportunity to succeed as individuals in a singles tournament or as a doubles pair in a doubles tournament. And this year was the second time in the 17 years that I've coached that we had champions. One is with us today, Andrew Nitchie, and the other is Corey Dale, a senior, who has been one of our most responsible athletes, and I think he kind of forgot about tonight. But they were exceptional. Their averages are about a 185 during the season. They competed against about 45 other teams, maybe 50. and they finished fourth after the 3 games, kind of eked their way in. Led by Andrew, who bowled a 590 series, which is almost a 200 average for the 3 games. And then when they went on to, the first round of the finals, and then in the finals, they blew away both teams. Andrew averaged for his five games about a 201, and Corey averaged in his 5 games a 221. So they blew away their own averages and did exceptional, and they came away with the Doubles County Championship. So I want to congratulate Andrew Nitchie and Corey Dale. Thank you.
Next up is Coach Alex Ciccoloni to speak about boys swimming and diving.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks to the board for recognizing our fine athletes this evening. This year, the boys swim team, to say they had a great season is like a tremendous understatement. This year, our boys were League One undefeated champions. We placed second overall in the county this year. At the state level, we placed 6th at all the high schools in New York State. With that performance at the States, we were the #1 high school team on Long Island, beating out all of Suffolk and Nassau teams combined. So, our 200 freestyle relay and 400 freestyle relay were up in states. We had 4 boys make individual events as well. We were county champs in the 400 freestyle relay this year. We were all Long Island in the 200 free, and we were the #1 relay team on Long Island for the 400 freestyle relay. I can keep going on. Individually, I'd like to call up Tristan Weingarten, Senior Captain Eddie Smith, Jack Milligan, and Declan Duran. These 4 gentlemen were part of the 200 free and 400 freestyle relay. They also broke their own school record this year in both those relays and placed 4th overall and 5th overall in the entire state with those relays, full league. Starting with Declan Duran individually, he placed 24th overall in the entire state, being the #1 freshman out of the entire state of New York. Jack Milligan placed in the 100 freestyle, 27th overall in the state. Our senior captain, Eddie Smith, he placed 22nd, and in the 100 free and 24th in the 200 freestyle. He made 2 events. And lastly, Tristan Weingarten. This year, he took 2nd overall in the county in the 50 free and was the county champion in the 100 freestyle. He also broke 4 individual school records, plus 2. That's 6 out of the 12 events that we have for swimming. So broke 6 records this year. And Tristan was also named All Long Island, and he has the #1 time on Long Island for the 100 freestyle. So congratulations, gentlemen. A job well done. 4 of the hardest workers you'll ever meet, and we're sad to see Eddie go, but the remaining are left, the last 3. So we look forward to next season and wish Eddie the best in his future endeavors. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And next, we'd like to call down Coach Shelby White to speak about the boys' winter track season. Mr. White was named Large School County Coach of the Season or the Year? Coach of the Year. Congratulations, Mr. White.
Thank you very much. I also want to introduce my assistant coach, Kristen Heischneider, and Coach Edwards as well, Coach Dwight Edwards, who's in the house. Because if you know our team, you know we have a large team, and it takes a lot of people to corral that large team. But that team this year did some incredible things. They broke some school records this year. They did things that Connecticut teams have never done before for our boys' spring track team. So let me go over it briefly, because usually I take up a lot of time, so I bullet pointed today. Our boys' indoor track and field team this season were, for the second time in school history, league champions. At the league meet in particular, we had 11 all-league athletes spreading amongst 14 events, 7 of which were league champions in those events. And obviously, as a team, we had won that with 133 points, where second place out of 11 teams had scored 75. So they had dominated the league meet this year. Indoors, we have our large school county championship, where we go against all the other large schools in the county, of which there are many. We had 7 all large school county athletes this year, and we ended up winning for the first time in school history the large school team championship, which was a huge deal for the boys. And then the next big accolade is all county, bringing all of those teams together, both large and school. We had 9 all county, all Suffolk County athletes this year, spreading amongst the 14 events. 7 of those were Suffolk County champions. So they did an absolutely incredible job this year. There's a long list of names that I could give you right now, but I'll get to that point. As we move off of that, we went to our All Long Island meet right before the state meet. We had 5 all Long Island athletes spreading amongst 4 different events: the long jump, 4x200 meter relay, shot put, and 300. And in all 4 of those events, we had 4 Long Island championships, and that was in the 300 meter dash with Giovanni Thompson, and the 4x2 meter relay with 4 of our athletes: Aiden Friel, Giovanni Thompson, Emmanuel Paravalos, and Dylan Thomason. Sorry, he moved to baseball. I've forgotten about him already. We had several athletes make the state championship this year. The highest accolades that we had from there, we had Aiden Friel, who was coming off an amazing soccer season where he was named All-American. He went on to the state meet, qualifying in the long and triple jump and 4x200 meter relay. So he qualified in 3 different events to go to states. He ended up going all-state in the long jump with a new school record that he jumped during the season, 22 feet 10 inches, which is a new school record by exactly a foot. And he came in 3rd in the state. And he also came in 7th in the state in the triple jump with a jump of 44.6½, which was a big deal for him to go up on the podium twice. And then we also had Giovanni Thompson, who came 9th in the state in the 300 meter dash. And our boys, both of those boys, also ran in the 4x200 meter relay, amongst other athletes that also made the state meet, like Bishal Das in the pole vault. After that, we went on to nationals, of which we qualified for nationals up in Boston in 7 different events. We ended up running 5 of them, just due to the athletes being spread out. Big accolades for Jaden McCabe, who came 8th in the nation in the freshman division of the long jump. He qualified for both the 60-meter dash and the long jump in the freshman division. He did better in the long jump this season in that event, but he is also one of the top freshmen on all of Long Island in every event that he does, and he is in one of the most competitive states. He is number 20 in the nation going into the national mark, 3 of which were all from New York. So very, very competitive state for him in that division. And our culmination at nationals was that in the Rising Star Championship this year, we had our national champions in the sprint medley relay, consisting of Giovanni Thompson, Emmanuel Paravolos, Edward Feisler, and Gregory Baldinucci. All right? So thank you very much. I'm done, I promise. Thank you for your time, and we are looking forward to a nice outdoor season as well. Boys, would you like to come up? Please do. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I didn't know that stuff. Fantastic. That's pretty awesome. Thank you very much. Oh, we got a couple of you guys. We would like to take a picture. Can I hand you?
Yes, thank you.
Coach Mike Austin to speak about the girls' track and field winter season.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to start off by saying the girls' track team had a fantastic winter track season this year. We came in second place in the league and top 5 in county. Amongst those girls on the team, we had 3 who were so good as to qualify for the state championship. So I just want to take a minute and kind of talk about some of the accolades of those 3 girls. Starting with Kaylin Mallon. Kaylin Mallon came in, or she was the top hurdler by time in the county from the first meet all the way through the state championship. She was undefeated in Suffolk County, didn't lose a single hurdle meet the entire season. Was a member of the team that qualified for the Millrose Games in the 4x4. If you don't know what the Millrose Games are, they are a world championship meet where there are the greatest athletes in the world, and our team was lucky enough to qualify for that, and she was a member of that team. Alexa Colandona, by the way, another one of the athletes who is here, was also on that team, along with Marissa McDougall and Martina Maletti. So, okay, at the league championship, Kaylin came in first in the 55, second in the 55 dash, and fourth in the triple jump, all in the span of 1 hour. She finished the 55 hurdles, still winded, had to walk back and run the 55, and then had to come back shortly thereafter and do the triple jump. And she only yelled at me twice. She qualified at the county meet. She finished fourth in the triple jump, first in the hurdles. She won the state qualifier meet. She qualified for nationals in the hurdles, which is not something we often have happen at Connect Quad. As a matter of fact, it's the first time since I've been coaching this has happened. And she is currently the second best hurdler in Connect Quad history, and she is just a sophomore. Lara Booth won the Suffolk County Championships in the pole vault. She also won the Long Island Championships in the pole vault and qualified for the New York State Championship. She has tied the school record in the indoor pole vault, and that mark has her tied for third best overall in Connect Quad history, outdoors and indoors. At the end of the season, her best jump was she was in the top 1% in the nation for pole vault. Alexa Colindona won 3 individual events at our league meet, which made her score a third of the total points for the entire team in our second place finish. She qualified for state championships in the 300 meters. She was Long Island champion in the 300 meters. She finished as the second fastest 300 meter runner in Connecticut history. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. We've had some fantastic athletes over the years. She is the third fastest 55 meter runner in Connecticut history. And she qualified for the national championship in the 200 meter dash, which again is the first time that's happened in the last decade that I can think of. So, again, great season, girls. Glad the 3 of you guys come up.
And finally, to recognize our athletes on the varsity wrestling team, coaches Bill Santoro and Anthony Melfi.
My boss, Mr. Mallory, said to keep it short, so here we go. First of all, tip of the hat to the other coaches. This is an outstanding winter season, especially Alex, who I coached way back in the junior high school. He was a great athlete then, and he's a great coach now. The wrestling team has won 6 consecutive league titles, and a big reason for that is standing right here, Ryan Monahan. He is Connecticut's top wrestler this year. Ryan is team captain and a state qualifier. He is a 2-time league champion, a 2-time all-county wrestler, tough to do in Suffolk, and a county finalist. His record this year, 40 wins and only 4 losses. Whatever he decides to do, he's going to be successful. His parents did a great job with this guy. Ryan led the team in pins, which is the ultimate in our sport. Out of those 40 wins, he pinned 27 opponents. He is now moving on to the next level, where he will wrestle for SUNY Cortland. We've had several of our guys go there and have success, and Ryan's going to follow in their footsteps. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Monahan.
Coach, congratulations.
And we're going to continue to talk about our students' accomplishments now in the academic field. I'm going to request the presence of our District Director of Science, Family and Consumer Sciences and Technology Education, Mrs. Stephanie Burns, to speak to you about some of the accomplishments of our 9th grade science research team in a very distinctive competition.
Thank you very much. And I'm immediately going to call down Mr. John Halloran, who is our science research teacher at Connecticut High School. And And we are both very pleased to share with you that one of the ninth grade research teams, composed of 4 students that we'll recognize in just a moment, are the regional winners of a massive competition called Toshiba NSTA Exploravision. And their project, entitled Isolating and Producing Targeted Bacteriophages for the Eradication of African River Blindness, is now moving on to the national competition. They did a ton of work this year along with Mr. Halloran. And the national competition will be decided by early May. So we would love to have the following students come up and be recognized for this incredible accolade.
Sure. Gabriella. I think she's here, right? Gabriella? Oh, there you are. Declan, Michael, and Michael Ebrand. Fabric. So this is the 31st year of the competition. This is our first regional winner. We actually just found out we also had another team of ninth graders honorable mention, so that means they place in the top 10 of the region or the top 50 of the country. These guys actually are in the top 6 in the country right now, so they're in the running for first and second prize, which entitles them to a trip to Washington, D.C. and upwards of a $10,000 bond. So they did a really great job. I just got an email today. They did win a Chromebook, so that's on their way. So they'll be getting Chromebooks, courtesy of Toshiba as well. All right? Thank you. Behind you.
And next, I'm going to call Mr. Robert Cassane, our district-wide Director of Social Studies and Business, to recognize 2 essay contest winners that we've had recently.
Okay, thank you guys. So the first person I want to honor is Katarina Pampindon. I got to know Katarina last year. She was a member of our Business Academy as well as our National Business Honor Society. She came to me at the beginning of the school year and she had a paper for me that she wanted me to review for her on the stock market crash of 1929 and its impact on American society. So I started reading the stock market crash paper that Katarina wrote, and I realized very quickly that I should not be editing that paper. She should be editing everything I write moving forward. It was that good. And she came back to me and she said, "Do you have any pointers? Do you have any edits?" And I said, "No, that's perfect." You know, so, and that paper was so good that she submitted it to the Concord Review, which is a scholarly journal that reviews student writing, historical student writing, all across the United States and in over 50 countries throughout the world. Fewer than 5% of applicants that apply to be published in the Concord Review are published, and Katarina was published in the spring issue of 2023. So Katarina, come on up. We want to honor you for that achievement. And the next student I would like to honor is also a member of our Business Academy and our National Business Honor Society, and that is Victoria Douglas. Under the leadership of Ms. Pizzamenti and Ms. Semt, Victoria participates in a program called High School Heroes through Junior Achievement. And the idea of this program is our high school students go down to our 5th grade classes throughout the entire district, and they conduct personal finance lessons for the students, teaching them about paychecks and investing and saving and the value of, the financial decisions you make now, even as a teenager, can have a pretty large impact on your future finances. Victoria was so good at that and so touched by that she actually wrote a paper, submitted a paper to the Junior Achievement New York's High School Heroes Essay Contest. And of every single essay submitted in the entire state of New York, she won first prize in the High School Heroes competition. So Victoria's something of a celebrity now. She's all over Junior Achievement New York's publications and websites, and she got a cash prize and all that kind of stuff. And we're just really, really proud of everything that she's brought within the Junior Achievement program and also to our high school as a whole. So, Victoria, come on up, please. And just piggybacking off of that real fast, kind of major announcement, we are on April 26th, for the first time in our school history, we're going to be conducting Personal Finance Day for all of our 9th grade students. It's kind of born out of that same idea that we want to kind of educate our students to become as financially literate as they possibly can. So we have students from our Business Academy, our National Business Honor Society. We have a local financial advising company that's coming in filled with graduates that are going to help us out. So we're bringing the entire 9th grade on April 26th, broken up into 3 different period segments, and then we're going to break them up, and we have all different activities planned for them about kind of those same exact ideas. The idea of getting our students as financially ready as they possibly can be when they graduate high school. And we have a ton of classes that they can take in business, but for those that don't take the business classes, or those that just kind of need that introduction to personal finance, we want to get them in 9th grade and get them kind of making those decisions as strongly as they possibly can. So just announcing that.
Are there any students from student government for a student government report?
I'm Zach, reporting on behalf of student government. Short and sweet, there was a very positive response to the sophomore trip, and there are many students signed up to go. Senior class is selling lanterns as a class activity. Junior class is gearing up for junior prom sales. Student government is finalizing the Spring Spirit Week for this year. That's about it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Moving on to board discussions, we had T-Bird mascot. We're having a letter drawn up. I believe it's still in the planning phase. We do have a copy here, but I think the board wants to review it, correct? Yes? Okay. So we're going to review it, and then we'll bring back to the table for our next meeting. Pippin, we wanted to congratulate all the students who were involved in Pippin, all the advisors, teachers who helped put on the spectacular show. The kids did an amazing job. It was a beautiful performance at the high school for anyone who got to see it. I meant to bring it up last meeting, and I apologize. I wanted to send a shout out to them. They did a great job. We also had the Showcase of the Arts for those who made it to the high school. It was amazing musical performances, the kick line, the artwork. They did a beautiful job. For those who got to see it, I know some people posted pictures. Do you guys want to add anything?
I thought Pippin was amazing. I unfortunately was not here for the art show, but I saw the pictures online, and I know that we have a wonderful arts program, so I'm just impressed with all the kids.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up on board discussions? Nope. Okay. Moving on to the first presentation, which is going to be the scholarship presentation, Mrs. Poppy and Mrs. Pullen. Thank you.
Good evening again. Again, Christina Poppy, nice to see you. I'm here this evening with Ms. Elise Pulliam, who will introduce herself in just a moment. But we are here to speak to the board this evening about our scholarship program, which is currently operational in CHS.
Good evening, everyone. Elise Pulliam. I am the Director of Digital Learning, Innovation, and Instructional Technology here in Connecticut. We are here to talk a little bit, like Christina said, about the rollout and a little bit about the program itself, the software and the hardware, its capabilities, and what scholarship is, just to kind of give a little information about that.
One of the questions that's been raised over the course of the last number of board meetings has to do with why scholarship. A question that we've fielded from the public and from some Board of Education members is wondering about exactly where scholarship came from. So scholarship has been a conversation in the district at this point for about 3 years. Scholarship initially arrived at the doorstep of the information technology department in the spring of 2020 as an idea, potentially something that could be helpful if utilized in our secondary buildings. And from there, a conversation was born. Beyond that, the technology department, in conjunction with the high school administration and central office administration, did some research into the program itself, including some site visits to local schools, high schools in particular, that utilize scholarship, to see how it's implemented in those schools and those establishments in order to make the decisions that are best for Connecticut. Subsequent to that, the ball kept on rolling, so to speak. The idea of scholarship, was brought to the Technology Advisory Committee and to the District-wide Emergency Management Committee for discussion and for feedback from the field, so to speak. And beyond that, the equipment was purchased and implemented over the course of this past school year. The benefits of scholarship. What is it being used for? And this hopefully will respond to some of the more detailed questions that have come about. So administration and security are able to know in real time essentially who is gaining entry into the building each day upon arrival and at the start of our lunch periods in the cafeteria. We're ensuring that everybody who is there, who is reporting to the building, is meant to be there. In those large-scale areas like the cafeteria, we now have an opportunity to provide real-time attendance feedback, which we did not have in the past. This is particularly useful in the event of a large-scale building evacuation, so that we are able to see who was in that space at that time. This is also helpful in the event of a lockdown or a lockout. It allows us some information about, again, the placement of students inside of the building. This is a capability that we did not have in the past. In the event of an evacuation, scholarship kiosks are able to be used upon departure from the building. So they travel with us. And so when we arrive at our next site, our next location, again, we have that real-time attendance record for those large-scale areas, which was a deficit in the past. It was something that we weren't able to calculate and we weren't able to have with precision.
So what is scholarship? I am sure that probably some of you sitting in the audience may say, what are they talking about? So we put a picture of one of the kiosks up here for you. If you just take a look at this photo, you will see basically what happens in the morning upon arrival or when the kids are entering the cafeteria. They are taking this card and they are tapping the kiosk. They have to physically come up to the kiosk and tap the kiosk in order to actually make that record of attendance. Okay, so once they tap the kiosk, it marks that they have arrived. The question is, does this take the place of period by period attendance? It does not. This is just in place to ensure that the students that are supposed to be in the building are in the building, and it would, if somebody came up with a card that was not configured to allow entry, it would let the person at the kiosk know and make them aware of that. This process ensures that no one that is not meant to be there can gain entry. Students also tap into the cafeteria to ensure that all students entering are meant to be there. This will also give accurate attendance in large-scale area in the event of an evacuation or lockdown. This was not something that clearly we had in the past, the ability to, there's over hundreds of kids in the cafeteria at one time. Now we are able to have that attendance record in the cafeteria. How does Scholar Chip work? So what is Smart Chip technology? All of the students grades 6 through 12 have a card that is configured with a Smart Chip. What does this do? The only two things that this card can do is allow the student to tap for that record of attendance, and it does allow them access to the Bradford charging lockers to charge their Chromebooks. Those lockers in the 3 secondary buildings are scattered throughout the buildings to allow students to be able to charge their Chromebooks throughout the day. That actually allows us to know, if a student doesn't remember what locker they put it in, et cetera, because of the Smart Chip in the card, we're able to locate the locker that the student put the Chromebook in. The benefits of this technology: Smart Chips do not require a direct line of sight to be read, which means that nobody has to stare at the card, make sure the picture is there. It's just a quick scan, it pops up, we know who you are and whether or not you're supposed to be there. It can be updated in real time. Gone are the days of checklists, checking off next to a list and seeing that. You're able to just scan and know who's there. What type of smart cards do we have? Just to clear that up, these are contact cards, which means that they actually have to contact a reader to be utilized. There is nothing else going on. You have to actually physically touch in order for there to be any interaction between the card and the hardware or software that it's logging in. So this is just a flow chart that we made so that we had some clarity on what can it do and what can't it do. So it can create an attendance record when tapped on the kiosk. It can allow for real-time attendance. Those are the two things it can do. It cannot track students throughout the building. There is absolutely no way that it can do that. It cannot store or release information it is not given, right? So if the software is not given the information, it can't share it with anything else, okay? Okay, as with all third-party platforms, so that's Scholar Chip and any third-party platform that we use, we are protected under a signed Education Law 2D rider. I keep very close track of that. So we are in an agreement with Scholar Chip. It was purchased through ES BOCES, so we are covered under their Ed Law 2D agreement with Scholar Chip. And as with all Ed Law 2D riders with third-party companies, the company must notify us of how they are protecting our data. They must ensure continued protection of that data, and they must notify us directly and immediately in the event of a data breach. And that is all outlined in that Ed Law 2D contract. What data does Connectquot use with Scholar Chip? So what do they have? Well, it is set up in a direct sync with eSchool, so it has access to the following things: student name, which is directory information; student photographs, and that's to ensure each student entering is accurate to the badge being scanned; student ID address; student schedules by course title and period only, to ensure that when entering the cafeteria, they are meant to be in the cafeteria. Other than the data points above, we do not have other capabilities enabled. So there is no other data being shared between Scholar Chip and eSchool. And this is the basics of what it has in order to basically create that ability to scan the card and have access to getting that real-time attendance. Moving forward, I am always happy to answer any questions that you may have about the hardware, the software, the data protection, anything that you have that may, if you have a question that stems from this presentation or anything moving forward, this is my direct contact information. You can feel free to contact me via email or phone directly. And should you have any questions about building management or procedural questions about the entry to the building, the cafeteria, anything like that, you can contact Louise Berger, the interim principal, and her email and phone number is also up there.
So
I
I
have
think
some
I should just
questions.
clarify, just in the instance that we didn't go over this with as much detail as possible. At this time, the tapping in is only occurring at CHS. Our students in both middle schools have these chip-enabled ID badges and ID cards, and they are using the cards in order to access the charging lockers for their Chromebooks, which are situated around the buildings. We are not yet in a position to, enable tapping in our middle school buildings. It's an eventual conversation point. It is not a conversation point right now. But this is where we decided the largest impact would be able to take place, and that is in CHS currently. So although all of our secondary level students do have badges that are chip enabled, in the middle schools, that chip only enables students to use those charging lockers. In the high school, the purpose is dual. They're tapping into the kiosks and they are able to use the badges for those charging lockers. If the board has any questions, I'm sorry, my back was to you the whole time.
I have some. So this gives you real-time attendance, is what you're saying. Only if they scan in, not when they scan out. So if a student scans in to go into the cafeteria, leaves halfway through the period to go home to the bathroom, and then there's a lockout, that student is presumed to have been in the cafeteria. So you actually don't know where said student is, correct?
Correct. So if a child does leave the cafeteria, we don't have a tap out procedure. We do not have a tap in procedure to our restrooms and or the library, for instance, or into our classrooms. There are districts that have that capability, but it's not something that we were interested in moving forward with.
Right,
here.
so in essence, you actually don't know where that student is.
Correct. We know that they were issued a pass or they were meant to go to the bathroom. But in, looking at this from a different perspective, in the past, we wouldn't have had the record that they were even in the cafeteria to begin with.
And also,
so it
this
gives us
takes-
a starting point.
It takes their attendance and it has their schedule, but yet the teachers still have to take classroom attendance. So it's like double duty, doing it twice.
Well, it's period by period attendance, right? So we don't have children tapping into classrooms. As I mentioned, we don't have card readers on the exterior of our classroom doors. I know you know that, but I don't know that the public is fully aware of that. So yes, period by period attendance is still a necessity to ensure that students are in the classrooms where they're meant to report to throughout the day.
I'm just trying to understand the efficiency of it. I mean, I see a lot more down than up, but that's just my personal opinion.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Marilyn, go ahead.
I have a question. So the data that it's collecting, is it only staying here? Because this is a third party. Is that being shared with a third party? Even their number, their student ID number, it doesn't have to be physically their names per se, but the number, the ID or something, is it being shared again with scholarship?
It is in the scholarship software, yes. So it is shared from eSchool in a direct sync daily with them. So it does have access to that.
And how is the children protected with this third party?
So it's all outlined in the contract with the company on how they protect that data specifically with security that they have set up in their system. And every time we enter into a contract, it's a yearly contract that we enter into with them that we examine within the district to see has anything changed in the contract, are they keeping the data protected? And I can tell you that there are many companies that I do not use or I would not enter into a contract with for the district because they are not ensuring the data is being protected for our students. So it is reviewed. This contract in particular is a BOCES contract, so it is not just the contract that this district uses. Any district that has purchased that software through BOCES is protected underneath that contract. So it's not even an individual contract, that the level of comfort there almost goes up because it is covered underneath the BOCES umbrella as well.
Just to follow up on Mylan's question, so they have, on here it says student ID, comma, address. Do you mean their home address?
I do, and that's because that is what's in eSchool. So you have to
So they
imagine
have my
it
child's name, their picture, and their home address.
because
Right.
eSchool does.
eSchool has
It has it
But
because
there's also
eSchool
the
has
second,
it.
third party now has it also. Right.
It's eSchool in and of itself is a third
Okay,
party,
just
right? So
clarifying.
yeah, so yes.
How are you dealing with kids that have IEPs and 504s? Because that shows up normally under their name,
Scholarship does not have access to any of that information.
but it could be.
We
It's not
haven't-
enabled, is what you're saying, I'm saying, so it could.
So scholarship could have access, but it's not enabled to a certain extent, but it's not enabled on our dashboard. I think it's worth mentioning that so many of the educational platforms that we use are third-party providers, right? So our protection as a district, and I think I spoke to this a number of board meetings ago, is through Education Law 2D. We are mandated to enter into agreements in order to protect our students' personal identifying information with any company that is going to be using anything beyond directory information. So many of our platforms carry the same type of responsibilities along with them, right? We're beholden through that law to legally comply with the ed law, within ed law, through that agreement. So it's a responsibility of the district to do that.
I have a few things, but I think you've already answered them in the past. One was, I know parents were worried about there being some sort of tracking in there. Can you say anything to that?
Yes, so the chip itself in the ID card is not a tracking type of device. These chips have to be tapped against the scholarship kiosk. It's a physical touch in order for them to be read. So I'm carrying a chip around in my ID across the high school. Nobody is able to see my movement within the building per se. It's only upon entering the building when I'm touching my card to the receptacle, to the kiosk, that my attendance is being registered.
And how if somebody loses one of those, if a child loses one outside and another child from a different district picks it up and walks in, they're tapping on it, who's making sure the picture on there is the same picture on the screen?
So the kiosks are monitored on a daily basis, and that's part of the rationale behind that picture feature. There is a person who is looking at the image that is registering on the kiosk as the child, right? So if this card were lost somewhere in the neighborhood, and to your point, a child from a local district picked it up, the thought behind this is that the photo presents an opportunity for a person to recognize that the carrier of that ID card does not match the person who is registered on the machine.
We've had, and it's been on the news, there's been breaches, computer breaches. These, for parents, this is a scary time with things like this. They get out, people have your kids' information. We see it all the time when people get, identity theft of adult people's information. Now it's kind of going in that direction, scaring people a little bit. So we appreciate you guys giving the information, but I still think that some people may still not be 100% comfortable, and totally understandable. The only other thing that I saw an issue with was when it was bad weather. This does slow down kids getting into the building. I know that people said that it went, it was a few more minutes than regular, but what are you guys going to do in the future for, like I said, cold weather, issues with, kids being outside longer than they should be, waiting to just tap in?
So we did have that one very cold day, and I think there were some preparations put in place beforehand to try to navigate that scenario. Students were held on the buses. We moved the kiosks physically within the high school into another location to hopefully allow students to move into the building with more fluidity. I believe that those plans, upon their execution, did not go as we had hoped. And so we experienced it and we learned for the next time, right? So we had a very relatively mild winter. And so we will take the lesson that we learned from that one very cold sub-zero morning and carry it into our practice next school year. So, it's not necessarily, perfection in terms of allowing students in, but I do know and I believe that if the high school administration were here speaking to this, that the line or the weight or the process has gained in efficiency and gained in expediency since we implemented the procedure back in January. We've seen gains in that respect, in that regard. And that's, the experience of doing something new, kind of ironing out what needs to change, how we can manipulate things to make it better, and trying again until we've achieved a protocol that people are comfortable with or at least used to in the mornings. So we do have cybersecurity insurance. We have excess cybersecurity insurance. So contractually speaking, I don't know personally whether that's part of an Ed Law 2D agreement, whether or not a company has to demonstrate their cybersecurity.
Excuse me 1 minute. If you guys need to talk, can you please just walk outside so that they can present? Thank you.
I don't know whether a company has to demonstrate certain levels of cybersecurity on their part, but we can be assured through our partnership with Eastern Suffolk BOCES that Scholarship has presented all of the required pieces to kind of onboarding with them and being compliant with Ed Law 2D. So we're protected through BOCES, and I don't know that that's part of that particular agreement that BOCES has with Scholarship. So BOCES becomes our intermediary for the product. So they have certain guarantees that they provide in order to say, yes, we are supporting the use of this particular application or this particular software or this particular program. If you purchase it through BOCES, you are guaranteed that the seller, the company, the third party has satisfied all of those requirements, and you, district, are protected. And internally, yes, we do have regular cyber insurance, and we've just purchased excess cyber insurance as a district to cover our constituents.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you so much for presenting. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have budget presentation by Mr. Hauser.
Good evening. My name is Robert Hauser. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations. I realize, once again, as we do this presentation, there are going to be a lot of numbers, and it's maybe difficult for you to see out in the audience. So this presentation, like all of the others, will be posted on the district's website. Been trying to do that within 24 hours of the presentation. So we are going to present for the third time here the proposed expenditures and revenues for the 2023-24 school budget. So to give everyone an idea of where we are in the budget process here, up at the top, we started in the beginning of January, and we are working our way down now towards a budget adoption date, which is 2 weeks from now on April 18th. Following that April 18th budget adoption, on May 9th, we will have the public budget hearing, and then on May 16th, the budget vote is scheduled at the same time for the school board election. On this timeline here in yellow, I highlighted where we are right now. I crossed out the second yellow line, which says the state legislative budget school aid final estimate. We don't have the final state aid from the governor's office or the state legislature. The governor asked for an extension, I believe, a few days ago, and that's going to get us, or get at least the governor through the holidays, at which time, hopefully next week, we'll get the final state aid runs. We're being told that state aid across the state, and in particular our district, is not going to change much, if anything, but we still are waiting for that final state aid report. Okay, so just a few of the budget highlights right now, and I just want to emphasize the word proposed, because this is still a tentative budget. There are a lot of moving parts, expenditure-wise as well as revenue-wise, and there may be some changes in the next 2 weeks before the board is scheduled to adopt the budget. But I just want to highlight the fact that as we speak, the budget does maintain all academic, athletic, and extracurricular programs and services. The budget is also tax cap compliant, so the tax levy, which is the amount of money that we will be asking from the public, is below our allowable levy. That's typically referred to as that 2% tax cap. Okay, so once again, this is a lot of numbers on this page, but this is really the summary page of our expenditures, and then a little further down we have our detailed revenues. This page also at the very bottom, I broke out 4 scenarios for 4 different residential dwellings at 10,000 assessed value, 30,000, 40,000, and 50,000 assessed values. So if you have the opportunity to take a look at your most recent real estate tax bill, that will give you an idea of what your home is assessed at. And that bottom part of this presentation here will give you an idea of how much the school taxes alone, just the school taxes, would be scheduled to increase. So as we speak right now, the expenditure part of the budget, so how much money we intend to actually spend next year, is slated to increase 4.11%. And in order to bring in the necessary revenues to support that spending budget, the amount to be raised by taxes from the community, right now it's proposed at 3.61%. So the difference is really between the 2 yellow lines that I've highlighted on this spreadsheet, which are just all different additional revenues that we will be realizing. So we tried to detail it as best we can, and even the next slide will show a little more detail on the revenues. But I just want to go down to the bottom of this page one more time, just so when you have a chance to either look at this presentation on the website, or you have a chance to look at your tax bill. I'm going to give you an example here that a home that's assessed at $30,000, this budget that we're presenting right now, the school taxes are scheduled to increase about $200, if I'm reading it right, $13.90. So that's a 3.64% increase. A few meetings ago, somebody mentioned that the average home in the community may be assessed around $40,000. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to verify that, but if that is the case, I added that line as well. And for a home that's assessed at $40,000, the school taxes are scheduled to increase $285.19, which is also a 3.64% increase. So just by giving those 4 different scenarios, hopefully wherever your respective assessed value comes in, you should be able to have a good idea of the effect of the school tax increase. The next slide here is just our revenues to support this budget. So on the far left side, we described each revenue source that we'll be utilizing to make the budget work. From the very top is our unappropriated fund balance, and then we go through each one of our additional reserves that we have. We break out state aid, and then we go into the amount that would be raised by taxes from the community. This page here is just simply a chart. It gives you an idea from an expenditure perspective as to where the monies are being spent. So typical of most public school districts on Long Island, 52% of the budget is spent on instructional expenditures. The next section, which is that yellow section, we call it undistributed expenditures, but it's really employee benefits, the interest we pay on our debt service, and then transfers that we have to make to fund our school cafeteria, as well as our special aid fund. One of the next increases is general support services, mainly administration. And then that smaller gray area, we break out transportation, which is about 6% of the budget. This page, again, I know it's difficult to see, but what I did is I took the budget and I collapsed it in a summary form to show from highest increase on this page right here all the way down to actual negative increases on the next page. So if anybody wants to see, where are these increases coming from and which particular line items, this page and the next page give you a pretty good idea of some of the significant increases. So just to give you an idea, the highest increase that we are experiencing right now is actually interest expense on our short-term borrowing. So if you heard or you read in the papers or even on the internet, you could see that the bond market is really experiencing some significant increases. That affects us directly because we actually have to go to the market to borrow money. And then on the second page here, the largest decreases is actually the principal and interest payments on our long-term bonds, and that's because we actually have a long-term bond where we made the final payment in this school year, so we don't have that payment in the following year. But just a good slide so you can see where the individual increases and decreases are coming from. The next 8, I think it's 20 pages, or it could be 22 pages, are every single line item in our budget. So there's over 1,000 lines that make up our budget. Here we presented a pretty clear picture of the description of the line, as well as a 3-year history and where we expect the proposed budget to be right now. And then you can also see the dollar increase and the percentage increase. So to the very, very far right, we listed some explanations where the swings in the budget exceeded a certain percentage and a certain dollar amount. So I'm going to quickly flash through these 20 pages. Like I said, this presentation will be up on the website by tomorrow for anyone who wants to take a look. But I'm going to flash through these slides quickly just to get to the last slide, which is really just a slide to see if anyone on the board has any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions. Mylon?
I have questions. Honestly, I'm not happy with the way the budget is right now, and you need to cut some more. So we had from 2020 to 2021, we increased it by $4,143,769. In 2022, that year, from 2022 to 2022 to, sorry, I don't have my glasses. So 2022 to, yeah, I don't know if it's going to help, but I'll try it with my glasses. So I'm trying to get you, so the last 3 years, we trended at 4 million, 3 million, 3.8, 4.1. This year, we're increasing it by $8.5 million. So you're basically doubling our last increase, which was 3.8. So if you look at the trending numbers, now that's your budget increase. And now when we're looking at the increase to the taxpayers, so 3 years ago it was 2.5, 2.6. The draft budget you gave us last time was 6.3. You did take some down, now it's 4.8. Still way too much. I'd rather get back to the 2.6. We were averaging 2.6, 2.5 in the prior years. Now, you did revise this budget and reduced it by 563,000. Where did you take that 563,000 from to give us this budget?
So, like I said, there's over 1,000 line items in this
Okay,
budget.
so I won't, yeah, you can give me an email on that one. So I actually wrote a lot of questions here. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but I do have quite a bit. And my line of questioning is ways of reducing this budget, because I'm not liking what I'm seeing now. Way too expensive. I get it. Certain things have increased. I get health insurance. I get all those things. But you can't go prior trending 4.1, 3.8, and then go to 8.5 million, on a budget. And then from our increasing it on our taxpayers, 2.5, 2.6, and then 4.8 million. It's dramatic. I'm not okay with that. There is a lot of things here that I do have questions on. I'll just go with the big ticket items. Why aren't we making it more attractive for our bus drivers? So now we're increasing the contract with the outside bus company by $1.2 million, almost 1.3. Why aren't we? I don't like outsourcing. I like to bring it in-house. I like to have our own people in our community doing these jobs. I have another one here. I have the code number right here. 2110 480 30 4 zeros. 298,467. Why is the increase? I'll give you another code. 263016031000. Is it really necessary? We're adding staff. Is it necessary for that one? Got another code for you. 551021040000. You're increasing that line by $500,000. That's the gas and the diesel. Again, I'll give you the rest of my questions. So how does the principal and interest costs impact the state aid? How does the principal and the interest cost impact state aid?
Well, I would say they impact state aid indirectly. It's the actual project or the bond that the voters have approved. As we start that project and those individual projects, and we complete those projects, that starts the process of us getting state aid. So really the state aid is pegged directly to the actual project and not so much to the actual payments that we make. The timing of it sometimes is that we actually make the payments before the projects have closed out. So there can be a timing difference with the state aid. But to answer your question, I would say there's like an indirect effect on the principal and the interest. It's really the project itself that triggers the aid. This year, we don't have this proposed budget does not have anything in there for contingencies.
So if the community votes it down,
Well, the process is the board can put the same budget, they could put a revised budget out to the community to be voted. If that budget is voted down a second time, we would go to a zero increase levy budget. Never mind expenditure, it's levy.
when we do that, what are we directly impacting? Because you're gonna have to take somewhere from somewhere. You're not cutting
Yeah.
1% off every budget line. You gotta grab
Yeah.
somewhere.
I hope we don't ever have to go down that road, because that means we have to operate this district with zero additional dollars from the community.
Okay, what's the anticipated fund balance for the 23-24?
So our unappropriated fund balance, we do not anticipate actually having to touch that, so it should remain at that 4% maximum that the state allows.
Okay. The board needs to make a decision on how the reserves look in 23-24. How do we know this, when we definitely need a projection for that?
Yeah, so the way we've been right now with the reserves, we've been able to show a proposed budget utilizing reserves. However, at the very end of a particular school year, we have had a surplus in which we've been able to replenish those reserves.
Right.
So to project this out further, I expect that trend should continue, but obviously if we trim this budget down to a point where it is so, and I'll use the word lean, and the chances of us having a surplus are minimal, then we could run into a position where we're using reserves and we're not able to fund them back.
I understand there has to be cushion. I understand some lines have to be inflated to, overall, but a couple of years ago, we've inflated so much that it was about $16 million. And I see what you were saying before. It trends around $8 million. I don't want to see another $16 million,
Yeah.
I don't want to see that again. So with the transportation, so we're spending more money on the fleet and adding buses and things like that, but our drivers are decreasing. Obviously, we need to increase our drivers because we're spending quite a bit of money in our transportation, which I fully support. But again, you need people to drive these buses, and then you have 1.2 million increase on an outsource company, and yet we're spending a lot of money on our in-house. So something needs to be, tackled there. Okay, how many routes do we have this year versus, say, the last few years? Are we increasing or decreasing in routes?
So the number of routes in total has remained fairly steady, but the number of routes that we service with our own in-house or our own bus drivers has decreased to around 78. That's actually decreased from over 100 in prior years. So the difference is the routes we've contracted out with Suffolk Transportation.
So you're saying that we've been increasing our routes and the excess is going to, okay.
Correct.
How many buses do we have in our fleet now?
So we have about 100, I'll say about 125 between the large buses and the minibuses.
Okay, and how many of those buses that were purchased since now that we eventually have to move over to the electric bus?
So we just took delivery in the last 2 weeks of 5 large school buses. We have one that's expected in the next few weeks. And we placed an order for 6 minibuses that should come by the summer.
So do you think that this was the time to be making those extreme purchases when we have an increase, like I was, versus, again, 4.1, 3.8, 8.5 million? I mean, some of our spendings be decreased because we can't put this burden on the taxpayer. Again, 2.5, 2.6, 4.8. I mean, the draft budget you gave me last time was 6.3 million. That was going to be offset by taxpayers. We have to do better than that. Again, I have a lot of questions here. A lot of this, and one other question too. What are we doing with the lunch? Now, I saw in there, what are we transferring to, what do we have there as a transfer?
I believe it's 500,000 that's going over.
550?
Yeah, it's on the last page. Let me see. 525 is the transfer, the
525.
proposed transfer to the school lunch fund. Yep.
So, and what are we up to date right now? So what are we how much did we transfer in the prior year?
So this year, we only transferred 125,000, and I don't want to say we're at a break even, we're probably at a slight loss right now. I would expect in the next 3 months, April, May, and June, for the school cafeteria to probably come in at a deficit around 150,000.
So we only have to basically cover them by 150.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about for the following year is dependent on where we go with the food service program. I'm worried that the costs of the actual food, the materials, supplies in the cafeteria have increased dramatically. Right now, we're under a contract, so we've been able to hold those costs. But next year could be a different story.
Okay, so potentially you're looking at 525 potential deficit in that?
Yeah, if those costs increase to where we think they're going to go, yes.
Okay. All right, so I'll hand these to you.
Please, yeah.
Can you answer them online so that the community can hear them too?
Yeah,
How Linda does it, you give them to him and then they post them to the website?
We'll make sure that they.
Like a QA?
Yep,
Sure.
we'll make sure that the
Yep.
question is posted and the answer below it.
All right, and
as
then-
has been done in the past.
Yeah, because I have a lot, so what I'll do is I'll take a picture and send it to you. I don't have time to type this all out.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But the overall question is, how are we gonna do better? Because the way that it is right now, I can't in good conscience vote for this budget. Now, my last question is, how much access do you have on the health insurance budget line?
Well, we're budgeting for a 15% increase come this January 2024. So the way the school budget is, we go from July to June. So right now, we're at I think the most recent increase was 14%. We're just going to 15% because we have no idea actually where health insurance is
So
going to go.
how much contingency was in it in the prior year? Because I know that's one of the budget lines that we like to cushion.
Yeah, unfortunately, this school year, we only budgeted 12. So it came in higher. So, yeah, we had to go into the... You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob. So moving on, we want to send our best wishes to Lauren Longo and Charlotte DeSimone, who will be heading to Rochester, New York next weekend to participate in the NAFME, National Association for Music Education, All Eastern Ensembles. Lauren was selected to sing in the mixed chorus, and Charlotte was selected to sing in the treble chorus. Congratulations on this amazing accomplishment, ladies. One more, we have the 17th Locust Valley Film Festival was held on Thursday, March 30th. This is the only festival of its kind on Long Island, and there are 11 high schools represented with over 750 films entered. Just getting into the festival is a huge accomplishment. We had 4 filmmakers get into the festival. I'm sorry if I don't say your last name right. Jack Manola, Noah Johnson, Catherine Novak, and Emily Pasquarello. We also had 3 students placed in the festival: Madison Farini, Victoria Ella, and Jack Manoa. Congratulations to these students and their teachers, Mr. Grandin, on this terrific accomplishment. Moving on, call for a motion and a second to approve a second reading of the adoption of a policy revised 5431 suicide prevention.
Motion.
All in favor? Any questions? Oh, no, this one doesn't have it, so it's all in favor. It's an all in favor motion. Motion so carries. Marisol and Brian are on policy committee. Did you guys revise these? Yes?
They were revised by Mrs. Pisani and a committee, and then they were presented to the policy committee before being presented to the board.
Yeah, we have them in our packets.
I didn't. I don't have any questions.
Okay. So call for a motion and a second. For the first one is 5431 suicide prevention.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. If we could just get a vote.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Call for a motion and a second to approve the first reading of the policy 5405, wellness and nutrition. All in favor? Aye, motion carries. The superintendent presents the following regulations and exhibits for the Board of Education's edification, 5405-R, wellness and nutrition regulation. I will now open the floor for the first public comment of the agenda. This public comment period is for consent agenda items only. Before I read on, is there anyone with a show of hands that has any questions, concerns, or anything they want to speak about during this public comment? It's just for consent agenda items only. Okay, 1 second. Please raise your hand if you have any question or comment on the consent agenda. If no one, okay. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president only. Comments should be kept as brief as possible and relate to consent agenda items only. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. If members of the audience speak out of turn, the board may consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend. We didn't give out numbers, right? Okay, so for consent agenda, if you want to speak, go ahead. No, can you just go to the podium? I'm sorry. I apologize. It's for the people at home so they could hear you.
My question is, you just stated something about a reserve fund, yes?
Reserves, yes, several
Okay.
reserves.
I.e. the slush fund?
No, these are specific reserves.
I'm sorry?
These are specific reserves, workers' compensation reserves, unemployment reserves.
The reason why I'm asking this is because when I was at the meeting where Greg Gercio was speaking, he said there were no reserve funds. 0 reserve funds. There was no slush fund for this. When he was talking about contracts and with the budget, and now there was no money. So I just want that clarified.
Yeah, the reserves that I was showing on this, on the presentation, those are specific, for a specific purpose. They cannot be used for salaries or for, negotiations, so to speak.
Is there anyone else for consent agenda items only?
Hi, good evening. Just a quick note on 2 and 3 on the consent agenda, stipulation of settlement A and stipulation of settlement B, just from reading online. I recognize that they're both confidential in nature, and I respect, obviously, the confidentiality of that, but I was wondering if you could speak to any part of that, to settlement, if that's a monetary settlement, if it's a compensatory settlement, and if that's something that we can't speak to, is that something that we're able to foil at a later date to find out some of the information. I understand regarding personnel, there's a confidential nature, but obviously in a settlement nature, according to whatever the rules are, maybe you can speak to it a little bit more, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
Yeah, at this time, they cannot speak about the nature of the settlement agreement. So you're correct, it is a confidential matter at this juncture.
Anyone else for consent agenda only? We'll move on so we can get to the next one. Can I please get a motion to approve items 2 through 7 from financial matters? Are there any questions?
No.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Personnel matters, instructional and non-instructional. Could I please have a motion to approve all personnel schedules as presented?
Second.
All in favor? Are there any questions first?
No.
All in favor? Aye, motion so carries. Can I please have a motion to approve items 2 through 20 on consent agenda?
Just to clarify, 20 is?
20 was added just before the meeting.
Okay. Second.
As amended, I apologize. I'll use second. So are there any questions? No. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I will now open the public comment. I will now open the floor for the open public comment portion of the agenda. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. You should have received a number card from security on your way in. If you have not, please see a security guard in the back of the room. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president only. Comments should be kept as brief as possible and must relate to school matters only. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. If members of the audience speak out of turn, the board may consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend this time. I will now call number 1 to the podium.
I have two things that I wanted to bring up. The first thing is actually, I'm very excited about it. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, we did a community wellness day. This was pre-COVID. It was done at the Connecticut Public Library. And I just want to give everybody a save the date for September 30th. The Mental Health Advisory Council is going to be doing that again. I'm very excited to be the parent chair for this event. And once again, it will be at the Connecticut Public Library, and of course, more details will follow. But it's just a save the date to just put that out there to the community. It's a really, really fantastic event. The other thing I wanted to bring up, of course, is scholarship, which I had questioned in the past a few times. And I'm still not, and I thank you again, Ms. Poppy and Pulliam for doing that presentation. We have been asking for that. I just don't still see the purpose of it, especially considering what Ms. Mallon brought up, that they're not clocking out, for lack of better terms. So really, what is I know it's, so you know where they are, but the risk, we just saw Suffolk County in the last few months or so, Suffolk County was hacked. I don't know that a contract is enough to reassure parents that their children's information is completely safe, especially given the fact that the scholarship company, although I heard that you said that we do not subscribe to everything for it, but they do track behavioral issues, mental health issues. The company does advertise that ability. So I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the greatest thing, and I don't know that parents are going to be reassured that their children's information is truly safe. Even though I know we do have other third-party companies that we work with, I get that. But this company itself, it doesn't really have the greatest reputation as far as that, I guess. So again, thank you for that presentation, but I really think we need to really consider whether or not we still want to continue with this and bring it down to younger children, down to the middle schools. So please do more research on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2?
Hello, good evening. Craig Amorando, Connecticut resident. I have 2 kids attending the high school. How you doing, Jackie? When is Dr. Adams' last day at her job?
June 30th. You should know, you gave her the contract.
June 30th? Okay. So the topic tonight I'm talking about is the principal being removed from the high school. So let's just state the facts. On a day in March, normal day, not too long ago, something was done that morning with the students. A drill, there was a check, something went on. 2 hours later, the parents are told that the principal will no longer be the principal at the high school, effective immediately. So, of course, we have no clue what's going on. We find out the facts that this certain person was being demoted. He was told that he had to report on Monday to RMS as an assistant principal. So, of course, so many questions, right? Why did this happen? If he did nothing wrong, why is he being demoted? So, one question, if he was being demoted, why did it have to happen that day, midday? Why couldn't it wait till the end of the year? Very strange. We all know the reason why, because something very strange is going on. Something sounds illegal. If someone is being demoted, right, you wait till the end of the year. It doesn't happen midday in March. So why isn't the board doing anything about it? The blame has been put on the superintendent. We were told that the superintendent made this decision and the board couldn't vote on it. That's what we were told. But we all know that's not the truth. The board, of course, the board is here to put a check on the superintendent. So our superintendent is leaving her position this June 30th, and that's what she decides to do? Let me get rid of the principal of the high school before I leave? So the job of the board is to put a check on the superintendent. So I don't know why you would allow an outgoing superintendent to make such a harsh decision.
Thanks, Craig. So last meeting you brought up a point that you were on this stage at one point and that you know what it's like to be up here, right? And you know, and you told facts that the board has the power to do what Dr. Linda Adams did and to vote on it. And that is not true. So you're spreading untruths.
I never said the board.
You just said it now, that the board has the responsibility to keep her in check. We don't have the responsibility to.
Yeah.
We were never given a vote.
But
Brian, wait, I got it.
I'm sorry?
Can I respond?
No, wait, let me just say something. So, Craig, and I can say this because you were up here and I was right there a few years ago when Cherokee had a principal removed. Do you remember that?
Yes, of course.
Do you
I do.
remember how many of us showed up here, meeting after meeting, pretty much begging you? As a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember, but I wanted my dad to be able to carry signs. And I was actually at the high school, yelling at you guys, why won't you put the principal back? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Because it's a public record, anyone could go back and watch the video. Do you remember saying to me, and I quote, Jackie, it's not me. It's Linda, talk to her. I don't care if your father holds signs. I don't got a problem. Did you fight for did you fight for the principal, or were you really have your hands tied because as a board member, administratively, superintendents supersede the board when it comes to administrative decisions that have not yet been voted on? Do you know that? I mean, you were here. You told me that you couldn't make the decision.
No, that's not what I told you. Am I allowed to speak? Okay, everyone can hear, right? Okay, so that particular, we voted on that, Jackie. The superintendent made that decision, and we voted on it.
Let me ask you something. That was done because it was voted on, correct? Right now, I just
And that
need you-
principal did something wrong.
Let me ask you something.
That's why he didn't have his job anymore.
Were you able to tell the public that? What were you able to tell us at that time,
So,
Craig? Because
Jackie, why
I
are
was
you?
pretty
Why are you?
sure you
why
told
are you-
us nothing.
Jackie, this is my time, please. Why are you deflecting? No, yeah, Mr. Murphy, you said I said something.
You did last board meeting.
I
and
said,
we were done
listen,
in 3 minutes, and we're letting you talk,
All right,
Greg.
so now
letting
I'm
you talk.
responding to you. So now I'm responding to you. Okay.
You can respond, Craig. Go
Okay,
ahead,
thank you.
fast, like a few seconds. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Yep, I just want to respond. So I never said it's not the board's decision to make. The board should not be making that decision. So, but you said the superintendent made the decision. All I said was the board, of course, votes on that. You can stop that from happening.
No, we cannot.
Craig, I think,
Lisa, can you help us out
Craig,
here and explain to him?
The board votes for everything.
Craig,
The board votes for everything.
Can I just say the fact of the matter is that nothing ever came forward to the board for a vote.
But now, though, you're hearing it. Now is your job to do something.
But nothing has been brought forward for us to vote on as of yet.
You have to make that happen.
No.
So I'm going
No, we
to,
can't.
I'm
Somebody
advising the
wants
board at this juncture
Come
with regard to
on.
this.
The board,
I'm
you have
advising
that
the
power to
board.
make it happen. You have to make it happen. You're just going along with it.
Craig, that is not true. And I really want to tell you.
You
that
just
the
said
next-
it.
I'm going to do you a solid. I'm going to find the video of you and me reverse.
I didn't
And
deny
I'm
it. Why
going
are
to-
you bringing that up?
and
Yeah, who cares
I'm
about
gonna
that,
tell you
Jackie?
Why
Are you
because
bringing that up?
it's a principle that
Holy
you couldn't
moly.
tell me
We're in
at
the
the
now.
time. You couldn't tell us.
Why are you
You
bringing
couldn't
this
tell
up?
the Cherokee community what was really going on.
I would have told
Correct?
you if you asked me.
Correct? No, you couldn't.
I couldn't tell you when I was
But I
sitting
will
up
tell you-
there.
Can you give me
If
that
you
piece of
told me if you asked me in the street, I would have answered why.
I'm going to say this. Here's a piece of paper from legal. Here's a waiver. Waiver and release of employment information. Have it signed, and we can all talk about it. That is not for you or I to decide. That is for
Once
an employee,
again,
and
all
it's
right.
their right to privacy.
Well,
And I'm going to say one more
deflecting.
thing so that we're clear on it, okay? Nobody has voted on anything. You've now heard from 4 board members
I know.
that nothing's voted on.
we know
So
you
we
didn't
should get
vote.
back to what
Can't
it's
vote. We
really
would love to
about.
vote. We can't.
We want you to vote. That's
We
your
should
job.
get back to what it's about.
Right. So,
Okay?
Jackie,
What it's
we are
about is doing research, looking at evidence, and us having to do our due diligence that you had to do at 1.2. That you had to do at your
Jackie,
point
why
two.
are you being so defensive?
I
Craig.
think the problem is, Craig,
Jackie, can I
the
speak for a second,
theatrics
Jackie?
and the fact that somebody who sat in this chair and had to make challenging decisions and couldn't
But
tell
you-
the public exactly what they'd really love to tell them, because the reality is this. I would love to give transparency on something, but it's not my right to do.
We're just asking you to
The
do
person
something
can
about
give
it.
Craig,
transparency,
that's
not
what I'm
me.
trying to
it.
tell you. The
So
superintendent
at
made a
this
decision.
juncture, I am advising the board to have no further discussion about this particular issue because it is a confidential personnel matter. And the more you have discussions about what you can and cannot do is violating this individual's rights to privacy. And unless we get a waiver, unless we get a release for this information to be discussed publicly, I'm advising the board to cease having these discussions in order to protect the board and the district from violating this employee's rights. Please. Yes.
Are we allowed to at least, state something that's already been happened? That somebody took a leave of absence? Nothing else has happened at this moment. No other action has been taken, and no one understands that.
Wait, Craig, before you leave,
You've
you
already
know
said it,
that
so
we
yes.
can't vote unless the superintendent presents us with a motion to vote on. And so unless she brings it forward, you know that we can't vote. How do
Craig,
you
that's
make
true,
her
and
do
you know
something?
it. You know it,
How do
Craig.
you make her do
And
something?
you're spreading mistruths to everyone right now. Because, who's telling me to shut up? Oh, Rob, got it.
I never speak mistruths. Okay? It's your job. Come on, everyone knows it. That's the job of a board member. The superintendent.
All right,
makes
guys,
What?
the conversation's over. Legal advised us. Craig, I'm not trying to be rude. I was just trying to show you that you had a difficult decision and your heart broke.
But who cares?
I would like to believe
I had hundreds
would
of
like to
difficult
believe your
decisions.
heart broke when we were all out there with our children begging you to bring back a principal.
That person did something wrong.
Okay, but were you able to tell us that at that time? Because I don't ever remember you telling me that.
Outside, I
You
would've-
never
if
told
you
me
asked
that.
me, I would've.
You never told me that. And if you did, you actually broke confidentiality. Number 3.
Good evening. Is this on? Good evening. My name is Terry LaFrance-Sweet. I'm a Connecticut graduate, a homeowner here, and a teacher at the high school. I'm not here to insult you. In fact, I think you have done some good things in the past, but I have to speak out tonight. I've taught under the leadership of numerous principals during my 25 years at Connecticut, and I can honestly say that our principal was easily one of the most upright and fair principals I've ever had the honor to work with. Despite the outrage and hurt caused by the flag policy at the beginning of the year, our principal remained calm and an empathetic leader. Although he wasn't the biggest fan of that policy, he followed it. At the March 7th Board of Ed meeting, you stated that the school board sets policy and wants our administration to implement it and make sure our students are safe. He did exactly what you directed him to do and then became the fall guy for it. On March 10th, our principal was informed by his union leader that he was about to be dismissed from his job and reassigned to the middle school as an assistant. He was advised by said union leader to take an immediate leave of absence, which he did. The reality is that he lost his job as principal, and the union leader who encouraged him to take that leave then became the interim. Bad optics. At last week's coffee talk with parents, the interim said that the move to dismiss the principal had been in the works for quite some time. There's been speculation for weeks that the reason why our principal was removed from his job and reassigned was that it was a deal brokered by the Board of Ed and Dr. Adams, that if she denied him tenure and reassigned him, she would get an extension on her contract for an extra year. I hope when I'm done speaking, that might be something you can address. But back to the optics. 8 of the 9 directors and 3 of the 4 assistant principals at our high school do not yet have tenure. Thanks to the just cause clause in their contract, they can be denied tenure and in effect lose their jobs at any time for any reason. What will happen when, not if, some of these amazing leaders decide to leave Connecticut? You've got the power to do something about that before we lose them. Back at the March 7th Board of Ed meeting, you said people need to own what's going on in their building. I've yet to understand why this concept does not apply to you, but now is the time to demonstrate fair leadership and justice, not just to us, but more importantly, to our students. Everyone makes mistakes, but only true leaders will admit to them and fix them. I ask that you use your leadership skills to do the right thing and set an example for our students. Bring back our principal. Thank you.
I just want to thank you. Thank you for pointing out, and it's the one line I'm going to take from it. True leaders acknowledge and tell the truth. True leaders don't allow rumors and lies to spread. I don't have the ability to tell anyone because I'm held by confidentiality, but there are other leaders that absolutely can. Moving on to number 4.
Hello. Can you hear me? It doesn't sound like the microphone's on because I'm standing here. Okay. Thank you. Jeez. Okay, so I am here to support the reinstatement of our principal. Our principal contacted me to inform me that I needed to come to the school because my son had been attacked by another student and that I was most likely going to need to take my son to the hospital for his injuries. He said in all the years that he's been part of this administration, he has never seen anything like this. I could hear in his voice that he was getting very choked up. He called me 3 more times that day to check on my son, to see how he was feeling and if he was okay. He told me if there was anything that either one of us needed, that I should not hesitate to contact him. And he gave me his personal cell phone number. He assured me he would be there if we needed him, and he was a man of his word. He responded within minutes to every call that I made and every email I sent. He met my son the day he came back to school to welcome him back. I cannot say we received the same level of support from our superintendent. I sent an email that day after the incident to her expressing my concerns about the student that had done this to my son, and I never received a reply. He, our principal, or the GOAT, as my son would say, belongs in our high school. Our kids look up to him, they admire him, they respect him, and most importantly, they want him here. He supports, protects, cares about our kids as if they were his own. He is dedicated to the school and has proven to so many of us that he is a true leader. It is absolutely baffling to me that he has not been reinstated. There has not been one negative or derogatory comment made about him. It is crystal clear that he is the right man for this job, and many people have stood up here fighting to get him back, and we are going to continue to fight. Not reinstating him is a huge mistake. Our kids feel they are being let down by the district. The parents feel that they are not being heard. Isn't it the superintendent's job to make decisions on what is good for our kids and not based on potential hidden agenda? I think most of us realize we may never know the truth about what happened that day, at the end of the day, and that doesn't matter. What matters is our kids are without their principal, and you are all accountable for that. It is truly sad to think that he will not be the person to hand my son and the rest of the class of 2024 their diplomas next year when they graduate. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5.
Hello. So I'm a resident for over 26 years, and my 2 children graduated in 2021. I am not a confrontational person, and I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. But after hearing about what happened to the principal at the high school, I felt the need to voice my concern. My children were very lucky to have a principal that was so invested in making sure they were emotionally, socially, and academically ready for the next chapter of their lives. After my kids graduated, I was relieved that I did not have to listen to another Board of Ed meeting. I did watch the last Board of Ed meeting, and I commend every person that spoke to reinstate our principal. CCSD policy reads, Section 3000, Administration, Title, School Building Administration. The superintendent of schools will delegate administrative authority to the building principal of each school and to his or her assistants with the district system for internal management of the schools, with established Board of Education policy and administrative regulations. The superintendent is responsible for the building principal. So, if I'm correct, if the superintendent is not qualified to remain in her position, why do you feel she is qualified to deny tenure to a principal with a proven positive record from the community? Linda Adams' decisions and/or actions reek of a spiteful embitterment being brought about by her own personal failures. It is with that thought process in mind that I request that you re-examine or reevaluate the recent decision and do what is right for our school and community by reinstating our principal. At this point, I would not blame our principal if he did not return for the lack of respect and value that this administration has shown to him. But it will be our loss if you decide to move on to another district that will appreciate all of your efforts, dedication, and enthusiasm as an educator. So, in closing, I would like to thank you, Mr. Moran, for the years that you dedicated to the children in this community and our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 6.
Hello. Good, how are you? I'm aware I can't receive direct response really, but before anything, I'm wondering, is there a way that these budget presentations can be posted 24 hours prior to the meeting instead of after, so we have a chance to review, because we know we can't see them on the screen. So we kind of come in blind, and then we have to wait until the next one to address that, which doesn't really seem fair, but...
We can do that.
Thank you. So I did want to share questions that came to mind when I was reviewing the second draft. I noticed that there was some increases in the social work department, which I am biased but think is wonderful. But there's been statements about things like social emotional learning being indoctrinating children. So I just want to know what will be allowed to do, they'll be allowed to do to increase student mental health if we don't believe in policies and curriculum like that. There's also an increase for home instruction that comes from increased hospitalizations and suspensions, but I want to know if we're considering developing a plan with these social workers to maybe do clear-cut intervention and methods that's proven to decrease the hospitalizations rather than increasing a budget for more home instruction that's going to isolate children that are struggling further.
I saw an increase for speakers for mindfulness and anti-bullying, and I think that we know that assemblies don't work for anti-bullying when they go into the halls that are full of hate. So I just want to know where the logic behind an assembly for anti-bullying is, and where are the students going to be provided the space to utilize these mindfulness skills that they're being given in an assembly? Are they just leaving an assembly and going into the hallway again and just hoping that they meditate in a loud hallway? I also saw an increase in legal arbitration and additional legal services that's based on prior year's expenditures. And while I'm sure the lawyers are wonderful people who deserve to be compensated, I just don't think it's fair. The community has to bear the cost in their taxes for lawsuits that are coming as a result of decisions made by this board. So that doesn't seem fair either. And obviously, I'm not going to stand up here and speak without mentioning he who shall not be named. I personally wouldn't be able to stand here with confidence today if it weren't for an individual when I was in that building who believed in me when I was not capable of believing in myself. So this is robbery to the students at this point. And I do think that everyone is just crying for help. They're not crying for you to make an answer right now. They're not crying for you to pull out a contract and put him back, but like something at this point, right? Like give a voice. You guys are the voice. You were voted to be the voice. So we need your voice is what's happening. I just want to quickly close and congratulate all of the students and the families of the students that were recognized tonight, as well as their educators and coaches. But I really pray that we get to a day soon where our media presence and our social media presence is about those accomplishments again, because that's the Connecticut I went to and I remember.
Thank you. Number 7.
Hi. I'd like to read part of a petition. The person that started the petition is a student, and she cannot be here today to present the petition to you. So I'd like to read what she wrote when she started this petition. She has 1,128 signatures for this petition to reinstate Mr. Moran. And she writes, sorry, I said his name. He took a leave of absence for the remainder of the school year and will not be back for the 2023-24 school year as a result of the Board of Education's lack of ability to take responsibility for the recent events that have occurred. As a member of the Connecticut High School community for the past 4 years, I can attest to the fact that he has always prioritized the students and their well-being. He handled COVID-19 graciously and gave seniors the best graduation experience possible during that hard time, and he has always made sure that the students came first. He always makes time to listen to the students and their concerns, and he's extremely humble with the position of power that he has as a principal. He always tried to make the atmosphere at Connecticut feel safe and welcoming and not intimidating or a place of fear. The fact that the BOE is blaming him for this school becoming less respectable is simply false. He was just doing his job by listening to their policies, and he should not be punished for listening to the BOE. He has morals and has always had good intentions for the school and the students. Please help the Connecticut community reinstate Mr. Moran as principal of Connecticut High School. And I also would like to take time to share some of the comments people made to this petition, that he was a great man. Mr. Moran is a great principal for the students and the high school. Mr. Moran is an asset to the high school. It is rare to have someone willing to do the right thing in our current society. This man cares more for the kids than for himself, and it is evident. The world needs more people to be willing to stand up and do the right thing. So you can find this online if you want to read more of those comments. But I'm running out of time, so I'd just like to read an email that was sent to all of you. I would like to express to you how drastically the morale in the building increased when Mr. Moran stepped into the role of principal at Connecticut High School. He calmly, efficiently, and thoughtfully ran the building. Even during the challenges of the pandemic, Mr. Moran made the students and staff aware that he was there for them at any time. He went above and beyond the duties of the students. He went above and beyond his duties for the students. There is no one better than Mr. Moran to be our principal.
Please don't keep saying his
said his
name.
name, I'm sorry.
I apologize, but it's part of the law.
I was reading, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. He is loyal, understanding, knowledgeable, and inclusive. In a district struggling with so much division, he who shall not be named unites us all. As a parent, I was looking forward to my children coming to the high school.
Thank you, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Number 8. And just a reminder, we cannot say employees' names, the buildings. These are things that are part of their privacy, for they're actually their rights as well as for the school district.
I need to read something that somebody else who couldn't be here tonight wrote, and then I have a question of my own. Good evening. I am a Connecticut parent, and I'm here tonight to ask you to do what is best for our high school students and staff. That is to reinstate the principle you know everyone wants returned. I witnessed this board once vote to suspend the superintendent's powers to restore the lunchroom to pre-COVID regulations. This is a matter they didn't vote to implement in the first place. Also, a former member of this board informed us all at the last board meeting, and again tonight, that it is possible for this board to right this wrong. Now you have an opportunity to fix something a majority of this community is pleading for. I hope we see you do the right thing. Thank you. And the question that I have is, somebody else mentioned their 2024 graduate. 2021 graduates were mentioned. I have a senior who is graduating this year. I want to know what I have to do to request a specific administrator to give my child his diploma, because right now, there's a lot of people that might be up on that stage that I do not want handing him a diploma and shaking his hand.
Thank you. Number 9.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie DeVito. I'm a Bohemia resident. I'm a graduate of the class of 1980, Connecticut High School. My son is a graduate of the class of 2019. And him and I wrote something together that I posted on Facebook. Many of you have heard it. I didn't make a separate speech, so this is it. My son, Nicky, and as he calls him, the man who remains nameless, were besties. The man who remains nameless always watched over Nicky, especially after he was a victim of a cruel social media prank in the boys' room of Connecticut High School in 2016. After the incident, and speaking with the man who remains nameless, Mr. Hansen, who's not in the district so I can say his name, and another teacher that is still in the school, I felt safe sending my child to school every day. That's all we can ask for as parents, is to feel safe sending our kids to a place they love. Please reinstate the one person I know who would keep all the students at Connecticut High School safe, secure, and happy every day that he is there. And Nicky has something to say, and he's going to say it anyway. What does it say? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Number 10. Number 11. Number 12. Are you number 12? Okay. Number 13. All right, at this point, I'm going to motion to extend the public comment by an additional 30 minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, is there a number 13? Is there a number 14? Does he know how many numbers?
Good evening. I have a quick question for you. I was just curious to know,
what the board's responsibility or obligation is in a situation when an administrator, particularly a principal, is given a lateral move, say asked to move to a different building. It's done officially by uppers. Do you then have a say in whether or not that administrator is moved to a different building?
It really depends on the contract for that particular title. So some contracts do give the superintendent the ability to make transfers. I think most of them do give the superintendent to make those transfer decisions. So that's an administrative determination when it comes to transfers.
So the board has no ability to agree or disagree with that lateral move?
Typically, no. So it's usually just an information to the board, and then the lateral move is done at the discretion of the superintendent for where the need is for individuals. That's usually what that basis
So
is.
you're saying it's need-based that the move is made?
It depends. It really depends on the contractual terms, but it's basically what the vision is of administration for those buildings.
Is the public privy to the information of what that need was or is?
Is the public privy?
Like, we were told that Mr. He Who Shall Remain Nameless was moved to a building for whatever reason. I'm hearing that you're saying it was because of a need.
I haven't said anything about that because as I have explained, I am advising the board, and I'm certainly not given the privy to give information about that scenario because of confidentiality and privacy for the individual who shall not be named. So I haven't said anything.
My turn now. I just have a quick question about this legal document you keep mentioning. I know that you probably won't be able to answer
When you
it.
say legal document, are you talking about the collective bargaining
Yeah,
agreement?
that thing that you keep showing
Oh, this
us.
waiver and
Yeah,
release of
that.
employment information. Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
that. You keep saying employment information, and I'm just worried about how much information that means that you can release after he who shall not be named signs it.
It would
is
depend on him, so it's not up to us.
It would be a
It's his-
negotiation?
It's his determination. These are his rights that he'd be waiving. This is his information that would be shared, so it would be up to him, not up to us.
Okay, it was just more of a question. So he would be able to talk to you and decide if he, this is where I'm confused. Would you just be able to release information about this reassignment that everyone is mentioning, or are you able to release other information about his employment as well?
It would depend on what he wants released.
So it's a negotiation, not just him coming and signing this document.
If he signs this document the way it's written, we'd be able to release everything.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 14? Oh, I'm sorry. Number 15. Is there a number 15? Number 16? 17?
Hello, how are you? I'm John Fitzgerald. I'd say I married into this district 20-something years ago. I would like to say that my daughter graduates in a few months. And like so many other people who have talked before me, we're a little disappointed because in her 4 years, she had to deal with many other students with COVID, but due to a failure in leadership, 3 different principals. 3 different principals. In my line of work, that gets leadership fired. Okay, so if you don't have the ability to be transparent in the decisions you're making, which I understand from a personnel perspective is fine, but as we can see today and we can see in social media, the board is getting killed by the public opinion because we have a weak leader who has made a decision on her way out to impact a person's career and our children's consistency within an organization like a school. This is abysmal. My concern is not just with the fairness to the principle that we can't talk about, it's also about the people who are untenured, who now have to worry about the political decisions that seem to be driving these type of decisions. This is unacceptable. My hope is that since this person will be leaving soon, meaning the superintendent, the new one will have a better track record of being more transparent, not selling the board out to the public, and being supportive of all the district employees and all of our students, because that's what matters the most. In my opinion, the administration has a lot to improve and do it quickly. In order to do it quickly and to gain my faith and probably everybody else who spoke today and everybody else who's been silent, they should reinstate the principal, allow that person to be able to shake the students' hands who are graduating, figure out when to resolve whatever issue is that you can't talk about in a normal basis, not during a year. So at the end of the day, I am totally unsatisfied with this leadership, and I don't know what the board has to do to be able to need to make a vote on this situation to help you guys out as well. But I do believe we should flip the switch and let's get the superintendent out on leave before her retirement, before more damage is done.
I think now is the time for you to just tell the public about tenure, just so they understand that the board has absolutely no way of tenuring anyone without the superintendent recommendation. We have zero power for tenure without a recommendation from the superintendent, whomever that is.
I love that Jackie tells me to explain and then she does all the explaining. So, so that is correct. So when it comes to tenure and conferring tenure upon a teacher or an administrator, that tenure conference only comes at the positive recommendation of the superintendent. So the superintendent makes a tenure recommendation to the board, basically saying, I would like to confer tenure upon this individual, and the board votes yay or nay. But without that positive tenure recommendation to the Board of Education, the board has no authority to give a teacher or an administrator tenure without the positive vote of the superintendent. So that's just the way the law works, where the superintendent is deemed to be the expert in determining whether an educator should receive tenure, and then makes that recommendation to the Board of Education. The board cannot pick out a teacher or an administrator and say, I like you, I'm going to give you tenure. That's not how it works. That's not how the law is written. It's only upon the affirmative recommendation of the superintendent.
Thank you. I think that, between that and between a prior board member bringing up a contract that they gave and that they made so lock solid, there's nothing anyone could do, and everyone seems to think that people's hands aren't tied. Unfortunately, the same people that ask about a contract are the same people who gave that contract. Number 18. Number 19. Number 20.
I'm a resident of this community of 54 years. I have a 36-year-old son who graduated here. I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter. Having said that, I also sat as a president of the board, the vice president of the board, and a trustee, okay? I am here to say you're all obfuscating with the truth, okay? Anytime someone asks a question, you kind of circumlocutate, you don't really give a direct answer, or you bounce it off onto someone else. That's all I'm going to say about that. I am going to say that I have a petition signed by registered voters of Connecticut community, 3,622, requesting that Mr. Moran,
One's name.
requesting that the principal not be told on Thursday, you're not coming back to the high school, you can go to become an assistant principal at the junior high or at the middle school.
We're going into some of the areas that unfortunately
Not really.
we're not allowed to speak about in public.
Right.
You're speaking on a third party, you're speaking about their privacy and their personnel matters. and it's not allowed.
Well, this
And
is
you,
what we're
and
hearing.
because you're on the board, you should know that better than anyone.
I'm telling you what the community is saying and what the community has learned, okay? At the end of the day, Jackie, the community has voted all of you on. You are there solely to represent the majority of the wishes of the community. And you guys are not doing it.
I mean, when you're on the school board, 'cause I love prior board members. This is like the best. You know why I love them? I'm going to tell you why.
Why?
Because I promise you, when I'm not here anymore and I'm on the other side of the podium, I'm never going to say, oh, you guys can do this, because I know what can't be done. I'm starting to wonder if you guys just forgot what can be done and what can't. And also, and I'm not trying to be facetious, I'm saying to you, you and I both know you cannot speak about personnel. So you know what happens? Let me just say it like this. So we can't say anything that we find out because guess what? It's personnel, and that person or people have a right to their privacy and confidentiality. You know that.
Going on what you
But what I love is that the public or the people that you're talking about, everyone can make up any story they want. And I apologize if I'm up here like chuckling because I can't believe all the rumors that have spread.
Jackie, at the last meeting, you told me you spoke to him twice. And you did not.
I have not spoken to.
You told
I have not
me.
spoken. I have not spoken to. People have not called me. Do we really want to do this? Because honestly,
we do. Yeah, we do. Because you have
I'm
a
not going to play this game with you. But I'll tell you what I am going to do for you. I'm going to find out from legal what I can post on social media from my phone.
How about calling an executive session to discuss this issue?
This doesn't lie. This doesn't lie. This doesn't lie. Maybe you want to find out from your source.
You can call an executive session to discuss the issue at hand, okay? The fact of the matter is, the overwhelming majority of voters have spoken, and all of you are disregarding. Not only that, you're doubling down. It's a personal
Have you not heard us that
agenda that everybody knows about now.
You
You can laugh and get snarky all you want.
I'm
but
part of the
fact
community as well. I know what the
remains,
community wants, but you're not
that
listening.
I will not rest until each and every one of you are off the board. And if you don't believe that, watch.
And any new board member will have no additional power or authority. And no additional board member will have power or authority. So my feelings are, bring them. I can't wait to see who's on the board next year. And I can't wait to see how many people go, wow, I can't do that. It's not legal. It's illegal. We're not allowed to do that. That's illegal. Can't do that. It's not politics. It's us doing the right thing by not saying what we're not allowed to say.
Jackie, stop. Jackie, stop.
Number 20. Oh, sorry, 20. Well, 21.
Hi. You guys did the presentation on scholarship. First off, you lied because you said that you were going to send out emails and robocalls to let the public know that you were going to be doing that. I confirmed that numerous times during the meetings. You guys promised you would do that. I only found out about it when I got here today, so I'm not appreciating that. It was a fluff presentation. Thank you for it, but you didn't answer everything. Does staff have to have a scholarship? We didn't hear about that. I want to see the data on the actual safety of this. Who's checking the attendance in the event of a lockdown? Because if you've ever been in an actual lockdown or you've been in these training drills, real live training drills, you'd know. There really isn't time to be looking at screens and stuff. You're moving fast, you're moving kids, or you're hiding. It's a very intense emergency situation. So I want to see actual safety data numbers on this. We're talking about, you said that they can't track the kids, but yet a few meetings ago, Ms. Mallon had mentioned that they said that they haven't enabled that yet, and they're going to possibly enable other things on the chip too. That she was told that. She didn't make that up. She was told that when they went for the visual to see how this actually worked in the building. So I feel like there's a lot missing from this presentation, and I also asked if the audience could ask questions when we did have the presentation. So that didn't happen, not happy about that. I was hoping for something better. The other thing was asked for the tutor survey. Still haven't heard anything about that. I would like to know how many parents in the district have tutors. If we don't know if the kids are struggling and all these parents are paying for tutors, we cannot help our staff. The other thing is we hired an immense amount of staff during COVID. Where are they now? Because we're back to normal. So where's all this extra staff? Where are they? What are they doing? I don't understand. And the other thing that actually, I'm not talking about the issue that came up at hand. Wasn't going to go there, but I have to say something that really bothered me. Someone got up here and they're a Board of Ed candidate, and they mentioned how they would have broke confidentiality after a meeting to tell about a personnel issue. But as a parent, I have to wonder, what else would they break confidentiality about? Is everybody just discussing everybody's personal business? Do you find stuff in exec session about children, and you go in, and any board member who goes up there, is that board member also going to go out and discuss people's children and their private stuff? And it's not to go after that person, but it really gave me pause because there's so much private stuff. And I just think that that's really a huge issue. And it's on video. I didn't make it up. And I haven't discussed any of this issue that everybody's up here arguing about all night tonight. I stay out of that fray, but that really, really gave me pause to say, I would have told you outside the meeting. Why would anyone discuss personal issues outside the meeting? If that's the case, then you know what, everybody waive your right. Let's discuss everybody's issues. That's privacy, these poor children and families. That's just so inappropriate, and that really gives me pause. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Number 22. And Christina, Mrs. Poppy, can you get back to her with the answers to that? Or even post it for Q&A? The questions that were asked tonight, if you can post it as well? Of course. Thank you, I appreciate it.
To start off, I would have never thought I would be standing here speaking in front of all of you today, mainly because these meetings have become a joke throughout the high school. But then I realized I'm voicing the opinion of not only myself, but hundreds of kids in the school. For the past 4 years at Connecticut, I have not had one bad experience. As many of you know here, I'm extremely involved in the school and have enjoyed every second of it, until now. As I stand here being a senior in the place I have to call my high school, I'm embarrassed. As I watched the last board meeting, some of you were on your phones scrolling. Do any of you even listen to anyone that comes up to this podium to speak? The lack of recognition of the problem only further hurts the community. The lack of transparency about the situation allows for the public to fill in their own gaps to regards on how the story played out. Take a look around this room. The signs are everywhere. None of the people here are the problem. We as the community are the ones agreeing on the situation, which is the unspoken man, a good man. He is the only administrator that looked at me in the eyes every morning and said hello to me. As a student who has a lot on their plate, a simple hello from him means a lot. Sorry, meant a lot. At the end of the day, you need to look at the bigger picture and the effect your actions have, especially on the students. Isn't that your job, to make sure the school is a safe and welcoming place for everyone? He was the light in our school and one of the only good things about it, and he deserves to be back. So please bring back my principal, Mr. Moran. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 23. Number 23. Number 23. Number 24.
Okay, good evening. Thank you. I was waiting a few times when sessions were killed, so I wanted to kind of get some of this out. I'm not speaking about any of that other stuff, although very entertaining on Facebook, and I really appreciate it. That's not the place that I do any of that. I will talk about safety, though. And I know, Jackie, you're on the board for the safety piece. A couple concerns I just have as past director of safety in some other venues, mostly in New York City, mostly in schools, 30-something years in education. The gates that are in front of the hallway may be something to use for the entry of it, potentially fire hazard as they walk in. Some areas about to be able to evacuate. So a couple times I've been in there. Maybe it's revisit. I want to point that up that the staff and the team does an amazing job. Very well trained in all the emergency protocols and NIMS and everything else too. I'm not going to name the director. know him on a first-name basis, see him. I think he does an excellent job with this stuff. But there are some concerns. There are some things that we do that we put in place that potentially can cause other hazards, although they might be some organizational things, and obviously we all have different experiences. That's something that we should definitely look at as potential fire hazards if we had to immediately evacuate a building or gain access to a building in an emergency protocol. So emergency protocols is what I also want to touch on. The other piece of this too is that there's a 39-page document that appears on the website about district safety team, but there's nothing that speaks specifically to the emergency protocol that is supposed to take place and how we train our students. Just looking around this auditorium right now, anytime every one of our large gathering areas is vulnerable to anything that happens in a lockdown or any kind of infraction that happens in a building. There's nothing in here that says immediately what to do. Nothing in here right now, if there's something that happened right this minute, that says what to do. I would implore you to go look at something called the Standard Response Protocol, put together by a man named John Michael Keyes in Colorado. It's a free resource. When he looks at lockdown, shelter, and evacuation and emergency protocols, he's a father of a student that was killed in a school shooting in Colorado, and he's put that out there. It's called the I Love You Guys Foundation. I would employ everybody to look at that, because that is something I've had experience in. I've been on both sides of that, but I also want to say that as much as you know and as much as evident, you don't think about it in a moment's notice. There's some energy here. Obviously, this is a forum for that, but in a moment's notice, any emergency could happen, and you want to have the ability to do so. I know my time is almost done. I'm not going to get to the depth of this. The curriculum committee, I do want to ask a question about that. If it's possible, there's no kind of minutes for it, right? I know that we have board members. I know Marisol, you're on that committee. I think Mylene, you're on that committee too. There are a lot of concerns about things that are going to be taught in the curriculum. I'm not taking a position on that. That's not my place, especially if I don't have any information, minutes, feedback, or whatever the case may be, to make an educated kind of decision about a position on that. So I just ask that maybe we can put some minutes or have some feedback about the curriculum committee that's existed since January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina, when you do minutes for the curriculum committee,
Yes.
Are they posted anywhere? Or?
They are distributed to those individuals who are serving on the curriculum committee. So every participant on the committee, whether or not they are able to attend meetings, and we have one tomorrow evening, is certainly privy to those minutes following the meeting.
Thank you. Do you think maybe we could put them on board docs? Maybe the rest of the community could be involved and know the discussions, or?
You want to talk?
We can work on a way to make the minutes more public, I suppose. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And we're just going to have Mr. Flynn, if you could just answer some of those questions, appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I won't take much time, but great stuff, great questions. I really appreciate it. And no. And obviously, you know your stuff, so I'm going to take it at that. And I think for the staff members that are in the audience here, we operate under two sets of plans. One that you see that's on the website, which is for the general public, which is called the district-wide safety plan. Those are global in nature. The building level plans, which by state education law are confidential in nature, which drill down into the particulars that you're talking about. That specifies what we do in some of the scenarios that you're well versed on. So the reason we don't post them is that we know something about the insider threat. And if you see what goes on out there, is that most of those individuals who are prone to do things, they study those plans. So that's why we keep them the way we do. But I'd be happy to talk to you at any time. I appreciate your knowledge. We're always looking to do better, but I would like to know about the gates that you're talking about. But accolades to the staff in the district here, because they do take it seriously, and we're never done with how we want to get better. So I appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Don Flynn. I believe that's the last number. No one else has any cards with numbers, correct? All right. So we're just going to adjourn. Can I please have a motion to adjourn the April 4th Board of Ed meeting? Second, all in favor? Aye. Have a happy Passover, happy Easter to those who celebrate, and have a wonderful Holy Week.